All right, I'm doing it. We're gonna dive in today to frequency and energy and those two words and talk about why these aren't just woo-woo, new age concepts, because I don't know about you, but for most of my life, I would hear the word frequency and think, ooh, or energy and think, ooh, like what? That must be new age. I'm staying far away. And anything like energy centers or chakras, I was like, whoa. Now we're getting into real new age stuff. And let me explain to you, one, what frequency even is, and two, the science that shows these aren't actually woo-woo concepts. Now, let me be clear that there are ways to work with them that are more new age, and if you want to use the word woo-woo, you can, but just the concept and reality of frequency and the reality of energy centers in your body is not inherently new age or evil. In fact, the reason they work is because God created them and He created them to work. So just like you can take words, and words can be used beautifully and to speak life, words can also be used to speak death. The words in and of themselves, like words were created by God, but we determine how we use them and can twist them and use them for evil. You could write, I would never do this, but I mean, I guess you could write spells with them and use them that way. And then, yeah, that's occultic, that's evil, that is not of the Lord. Or you can speak blessings and prayer using words. See, it's not the words that are the problem, just like it's not the frequency that is this problem. It's not crystals and rocks and gems that are the problem, because God created crystals and rocks and gems, and He created them with frequency, which we're going to dive into, that do harmonize and work with your body. But if you're seeking special knowledge, if you're seeking special power using those, that crosses a line that's different versus just the knowledge of the frequency and then knowing God created these things to work with our bodies and using them to work with your body. There's a biblical way to do it and a prayerful way to do it and a way to redeem creation, because honestly, we are missing out as believers on so much healing because we have given God's tools to the enemy and we have said, those are the enemies, instead of recognizing the reality that God has created a lot of these things for us and for our good. And in fact, they're in scripture used in the temple. They're used in Aaron's ephod that he wears as the high priest. And God commanded them to be used and to be worn. And just because somebody takes that and then twists it and uses it in a different way does not negate the goodness of how it was created. So let's even talk about what frequency is. Okay, every organ, I'm going to read off of my notes for some of this because I want to be sure I communicate this clearly. So when I use the word frequency, I'm talking about a specific measurable scientific frequency. And every organ in our body has a specific one. So your liver has a specific frequency, your heart has a specific frequency. It's why you can measure it with an EKG. You know, I feel like we use a lot of these things without even thinking about it. Crystals are used to run watches. Quartz is used to run watches and computers, all sorts of things because of its frequency that works. So your organs, though, have healthy state frequencies, and these are lower when your body is experiencing dis-ease. So anytime there's fatigue or illness or something is off, dis-ease, unease in your body, then the frequency of that organ lowers. And it's known that by keeping our bodies at specific frequencies and those organs at those frequencies, that it helps our immune system and those organs to work at their optimal levels. Now, when two frequencies come together, it harmonizes or evens out the frequency wave. It improves that living thing's function. So just as smelling a high frequency oil can raise our frequency up, so can listening to praise and worship music and prayer. Those things raise your frequency, which is why then they help you to feel good, is because the music, we know music can impact us greatly. We know that prayer can impact us greatly. Yes, the power of the Spirit, but the music itself, just different kinds of music, that changes the way that we feel, and that's because of the frequency. And we know that the frequencies of certain oils are the same as certain organs, and that explains why they've been used for centuries to support those organ systems. Now, frequency is a measurable rate of electrical energy that is constant between any 2 points. I'll say that again. Frequency is a measurable rate of electrical energy that is constant between any 2 points. The difference between essential oil frequency and the frequency of light or a television or your microwave or telephone is that these electrical AC frequencies are incoherent and chaotic frequencies. So they can actually lower your body's frequency because they fracture the human electrical field. So because these frequencies, these scientific measured frequencies that each organ has, that gives our body an electrical field. And when you introduce another chaotic frequency versus a harmonious frequency, then it interferes with that electrical field. So that's why you have issues sometimes with EMFs, with computers, with cell phone radiation, because wireless networks can interfere with your body's electrical field. Essential oils, on the other hand, and even things like crystals and music, have a coherent harmonic DC frequency, and these are harmonious with the body's electrical fields. So studies have shown that negative thoughts actually lower our frequency by 12 megahertz. Positive thoughts raise our frequency by 10 megahertz. Prayer and meditation raise our frequency on an average of 15 megahertz. Essential oils start at approximately 48 megahertz and range as high as 500 megahertz. So like Melrose is one of the Young Living blends that's at 48 megahertz. And then one that is over 500 would be like Idaho Blue Spruce is a high frequency oil. Processed food has a frequency of 0. So it does not help your body's frequency. It doesn't necessarily hurt it, but it depends on the food. Fresh produce, though, raises it 15 megahertz. Dried herbs, 10 to 22 megahertz. Fresh herbs, 20 to 27 megahertz. The healthy human body is usually between 62 and 78 megahertz. That's where we typically are. Where an unhealthy body usually is when it falls below 59 megahertz. And usually anyone who is like anyone who's extremely ill and the dying process is kind of set in, their body tends to be between 20 and 25 megahertz. So isn't that crazy? Because I used to think, like I said, that frequency was just this woo concept. I had no idea that there was actually a measurable, scientific measurable frequency, which again made sense when I started thinking, oh, that's why like a pacemaker can help the heart, because it needs to be beating at a frequency. It's electronic. Your nervous system is essentially an electronic system in your body, connecting all of your organs and sending the signals to all of your different body systems. And those all happen through electrical frequency. That is also why chiropractic care, when it manipulates the spine off of a nerve, anything that was like cutting off energy for that nerve, it can impact all your different organs as well. Also, because I mentioned the word chakras, which freaked me out for the longest time. And again, you still have to be careful. I'm not saying like, hey, go dive in as a believer to anything that's talking about chakras and it's fine. Be prayerful, be wise, use wisdom, ask the Lord about it, see how it's being used, what is the purpose, what is your intent as well. So, but there are energy centers that science is finding in the areas that for centuries have been deemed chakras, but I prefer to call them energy centers just because it helps me to keep kind of the, it just helps me to clarify a little bit more. And it also isn't as much of a conversation ender when you're starting to introduce these concepts to other believers who, like I said, we need to be wise. I'm not saying we just dive in and go, oh, God created everything, we're good. Like, yes, and the enemy uses some things and we don't want to be messing with what the enemy is doing. We also don't want to hand over things to the enemy because he's used to them and abandon them, because that's what he wants. He wants us, because then I feel like there's many times as believers that we are praying and we're asking the Lord for healing and we're asking God for things, and he's like, I've given you all of these tools to use. You won't touch them because you've called them evil. If you would use what I gave you, you might see healing. That's what I feel like. I just feel like he must be thinking that at times, because we have completely abandoned a lot of his creation and given it over to New Age, and that's not the rightful ownership. God owns it. So anyway, I hope this has blessed you. If you still have questions, awesome. I still have questions. I'm still learning. I'm just sharing a little bit with you what I have been learning, and I'm excited to dive in. We've started adding some more things into our home to help raise our body's frequencies. So of course we're diffusing essential oils almost nonstop. We diffuse pretty regularly to keep the air in our home good and our minds clear, and just to help with our body's frequencies. But then also plants, and we eat well, and we're very conscious of that. And then I also have a couple different crystals that I've just started diving into. What does that look like to understand the frequency and how it can help your body without diving into the mystical part of it? Because right now what I have found is that most of the education, unfortunately, is the mystical side. And so let's dive in, let's learn, so that we can share from the biblical side, God's creation, the gift he has given us, and share that with the world. Have a wonderful rest of your day, whatever you're watching this, in the daytime, in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. Thank you for watching. I hope this has blessed you. If so, please like this video, please share this video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you get notified every time a new video goes live. Cheers.